with an international election observer, Austin Aibwe, who is also a political analyst, will be taking the stage for our conversation. Now, a lot of conversations on that, outcomes, and perhaps we will get more insight as we take him on this discussion. You're welcome, Austin.
Thank you very much. It's been an honor indeed.
So much has been said about the exit of those three countries, Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, from ECOWAS. Is it really a very threatening situation for the sub-regional body?
It depends on this point of view or the side where you're standing. It's like a 9 and a 6 kind of dynamics, whether you are sitting on the other side or this side. But first, maybe let me come to the side of 9. So let me talk about the side of the benefit to ECOWAS. If they leave, or their proposal to leave, does it really impact on...
No, they said they have left. Immediately.
It can be immediate. There's a legal requirement. It will take up to a year. Just that these guys are military guys. You know, military don't... They just want to do something Indian Mike. Now. You have to go through the process. It's a signed document. But they've formally notified the commission, the community, that they are disembarked, and they said now. But by regulation, ECOWAS is still seeing them as their member, and that's why the negotiation is going on. So let's come from the point of view from the security side, because that's why if you see the security meeting, what benefit does it have for ECOWAS? Right now as we speak, ECOWAS, as it were, is faced with some kind of Sahelian problem. You see invasion of militias, particularly ISWAP or whatever it's called, invading, whether it's Burkina or it's Mali. Each of these countries faces a unique threat, security threat. And just so you know, the Wagner Group, that's the Russia Wagner Group, does support this category, particularly Mali, Niger, and they have some flair in Burkina. Burkina is so unique. Burkina usually don't depend on others. They want to fight their aim by themselves. But there is heavy presence of Wagner Group, and whether I like it or not, there's a disinformation mechanism that is going on within that periphery. So I'm sure you would have seen videos of militias or whether it's Boko Haram or whatever his name is called, over 400 of them burnt live, and they said they used some kind of weaponry and they just burned them. And the question is that, how was it done? Nobody knew to date. Those are manipulative data to share with people to see that our exit from ECOWAS will pay more, will block our borders so that these militias don't come from Nigeria or elsewhere. The truth is, the bet is a threat. Their exit from ECOWAS endangers ECOWAS other states. For example, Nigeria and elsewhere. Ghana, northern part of Ghana, whether it's the northern part of Sierra Leone, northern part of Liberia, they all have those kind of challenge. Their exit does have an impact. It's better coordinated so that you don't create any loophole, but their exit is actually a loophole. But if you flip that around, these countries will suffer more. And for me, that's where I stand. These countries will suffer more. These three countries are landlocked countries. At some point they will rely on Algeria to be able to access the waterway. Now they are literally known with Algeria. They've moved technically to Morocco. So the question is, will Algeria still support them? Landlocked countries all over the world face unique challenge. Unique challenge. The only thing that can come is to have by the air. So the bulk of economic development are usually by the sea, and that's why countries like Rwanda, with all the beauty, Rwanda is relying on Tanzania because of the waterways. You see the relationship. Rwanda is even trying to align with Tanzania to say, can you give us part of this so we can use it to ferry our goods in? Because it's cheaper. If we move in by the air, like what Wagner or Russia can do for these three countries, in fact, these three countries, it will be difficult for them to leave. They are still using the currency. Their bank reserve is in France. Have they dismantled those generational forces? I call it generational forces. I don't support France influence in those countries. I don't. However, exit from ECOWAS is a further tragedy for these countries. And I think so very strongly.
Okay, so I hear what you say, but then again, after the closed door meeting, we saw Omaro Aliyu Tore, ECOWAS Commission President, come out to say something. He said, and I'll quote him, he says, despite our collective efforts to create a conducive and peaceful environment for our community of states and their citizens, the facts on ground shows that we are still not allied and united in the work that we want to do and how we are represented. So there seems to be an echoing of, exclusion of thoughts in terms of how they collaborate. And I think when you listen to Burkina Faso, you listen to Niger, you listen to, Mali, and what they said was a concurrent feeling that they were left on their own and were not carried along in terms of the time factor that they talked about in transitioning. So how do they come back to the drawing board? Because this is an essential conversation. Whether we like it or not, there is a level of exclusion for them, and they have left psychologically. So how do you bring back this conversation to look at it as, it's an us conversation and not a we against them?
So first is to say, I don't truly agree with the conversation from these military leaders. Mali, there was an in-depth conversation with Mali when the military coup took place. And don't forget, there was a series of military coups. And there was a conversation about 4-year term, and people talk about it was too long and all of that, okay, 2 years. And there was that agreement. When it was Burkina Faso, there was that conversation. It was when Niger joined the team, they looked so solidified, and they are just together. Niger, Mali, Burkina, they share some kind of similarity, and they're also francophonic, so they speak the same language, they use the same currency, they could actually develop themselves into one. And that's why Guinea is a bit further away, because even though Guinea also aligned military-wise and language-wise, but it's not connected by that line border. So maybe that's why Niger is still on its own, Guinea is still on its own. Let's come back to exclusion. It is possible there were exclusion. It is possible that we did it because when military takes over regimes, coming to tell me that you have 2 years or 1 year or 2 years, are you the one that organized my military coup? I've come here to settle the wish of my people. In fact, if you see what happened in this country, whether it's in Guinea, Niger, Burkina, or Mali, each time the military struck, you will see the civilian population excited, and they are all on the street. As I speak to you now, the narrative has changed in Guinea. All of those folks who ran on the street getting excited that the military took over, they are now back to square one. They are no longer excited. Burkina is worse. Burkina Faso is worse. If you criticize the regime of Toure, the military president, that you talked about security challenge as a basis for taking over. Now we are worse off. What's happening? They will say, okay, no problem. You come. They'll give you a gun, arm you, so go and fight it. So you are now suppressing views. So people are no longer speaking. Is that the excitement on the day they took over? No. Mali is the same thing. When they took over from, when they removed Ibeka, then president who later passed on, the narrative was the election was flawed and all of that. This happened. Usually the military comes with very fantastic idea. We have come in to repair. But when they come in from repair, because sincerely, military personnel are strategists. But they are strategists in war. Not necessarily strategy in good governance. So there are two types of strategy. The word strategy is a military term in all terms and purposes. When you talk about organizing strategic intervention, it's military. But governance intervention is different. When you see military training, it is more of a subordinate, a leader-subordinate kind of narrative. But if you flip that around with democracy, it is more of listening to people. And military officials don't listen to people. They do what they think the strategy organizing has brought up as a solution, so they run with it. Whether the people agree with it or not, it is immaterial. When you criticize the military to say, we think that this is happening, and you are giving the person who criticized, including a medical doctor, in Burkina Faso, who criticized the regime and he was given arms to go fight. So why have you turned the slide against your own people? When you say they put out, you talked about psychologically they put out. It is the military guys that put out, not the people. My friends and folks still in these countries share the same orientation with us. To say, where they are in here, they can't speak. Because if you speak, you are speaking against these folks who will come to your house and take you out and tell you there are media officials media no longer speak the way we speak in Nigeria. Civil society, if you speak anywhere in Burkina, in Mali, the next day you are missing. And you're just missing like that. Once upon a time, there was that case in Nigeria.
It's a repressive situation right now.
Repressive. Decent voices are being oppressed. In fact, you don't even need to have decent voice there. Most of the decent voices are off speaking from the outside. And you see what's also happening in Senegal.
Yes, you look at the fact that he's extended the election to about further 10 months, and that's also taking ECOWAS, backwards as well.
Yeah.
But for me, I would like us to look at it from different perspectives. One, good governance is missing in almost all of these countries.
Yeah.
Like you said, the people you have interacted with say they can't speak because they're likely to be given a gun to go and fight and all of that. And one key issue that I think it was Professor Akintanewa that raised it with us when we had our last conversation with him, is that good governance is missing and people are actually yearning for a better life. But that is one view that I would like us to look at. How does this affect the lives of the people? That's on the one side. On the other hand, what is the challenge to ECOWAS here? Because, like you said, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger are still spending the CFA. Their foreign reserves are still domiciled in France. So they still haven't thrown off the yoke of France, which is the biggest yoke, really. Now, doesn't this present a challenge to ECOWAS itself to ensure that as a regional body, they begin to find a way to throw off the shackles, to break the shackles of neocolonialism?
So ECOWAS is a community. So, sometimes we put a lot of burden on ECOWAS. And truly, even though it's good to put a burden on them, these countries are sovereign countries. They have the right, like the right they have now to pull out from ECOWAS. They could actually pull out from this reserve, but if they pull out, they can go very poor. The level of poverty will jack up almost immediately. Now you have blocked Niger. Look at the border closure with Niger when the military coup took place. Nigerians, who are actually Nigerians, because that border between Nigeria and Niger is so tiny that you don't even know it's a Nigerian or it's a Nigerian. Now these are artificial, in quote, colonial borders that created this difference between us. We are one people. We literally speak the same thing. If you see an Ivorian, yes, thank you. Elsewhere, not in Africa, maybe elsewhere. Like, I'll give you a typical example. I was in New York where an Ivorian did something, and the fellow said he was Nigerian, and the people believed him. So somebody now drew attention to say, "Look at your brother." I looked at him. I said, "No, he's not a Nigerian." The guy said, "I say he look a bit dark." I said, "Let me find out." I just used our local landscape words. Bro, how far now? Waiting day. Communication was cut. So I knew there was a problem. So I couldn't expose him technically, but I drew him and said, don't abuse the word Nigerian. Because everywhere a black man or woman does something else outside the country, it's seen as a Nigerian. We are the same. We share most the same culture. Language is colonial. But these are the same people. That's why I said about, the thing I talked about, the dynamics about the poverty and the penury that will visit these three states if they pull out eventually from ECOWAS. They are going to rely on Morocco and maybe rely on Russia to supply grains and all of that. The truth is that it is not sufficient. The cross-border interaction will be missing. See, food alone does not motivate people. Relationship is key. That you are able to cross over to your brother in Nigeria without a visa is critical. And in fact, those borders don't even use a passport. It's like Togo and the Lagos bed. You just walk in and you walk out. These are strong relationships. It goes beyond territorial boundaries. It goes beyond diplomacy. These are the same people. And that is why I think that the reason why people living in those states, that's why I talked about dissenting voices earlier, the reason why you are not seeing that conversation pulling out from those countries is because of the repression. Because they cannot speak. I think what ECOWAS can do is this diplomacy. ECOWAS made the mistake at Benicio of declaring war on Niger. That was a fantastic error. Fantastic, in quote. Because you have not, when you do negotiation, the 3 C's are key. You've got to consult. You've got to consult. Or you come from the behind and go confrontational and not speak the confrontational. You would have expected that the moment it happened, there is boom. But since you didn't go that route and you are talking about it, you are sending a message that I'm coming to your house, allowing you to prepare against me. So why do you do that? That's not even a good military strategy. ECOWAS needed to have consulted, consolidated before maybe thinking about that last action. Since we made that mistake, now we assume that that is over. ECOWAS has taken the right step of negotiation. We need, I think, that the chair of ECOWAS, which is Nigeria's president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, needs to, I was thinking about inviting them to Nigeria. They won't come. They will be the fear of being arrested in Nigeria. ECOWAS president can truly, not sending other state people. I don't want to say other state men. You know, usually we send other state people to go do this negotiation. The ECOWAS chair need to step into this country and have a one-on-one conversation to say, you know what has happened. We need to have a conversation.
Move forward.
Move forward. Austin, was it on Friday that Niger announced that flights originating from Nigeria or having had a stopover in Nigeria will not be allowed to fly over the Nigerian airspace? So how does the Nigerian president go to a country that has already banned flights to and from Nigeria?
They banned flights, not the president. So the president going to this country had to be a conversation. He can't just go in by night, no way. He needs to call, hello, President Toure. This is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I've heard all that has happened. I do recognize with you. You need to speak his language. I do recognize with you. See, I need us to have a conversation. When are you free? I hope tomorrow I will come in. Or do the back-end dynamics. There are countries these guys are relying on. One of them is Putin. Putin is very stubborn. Can you go through Putin? It may be an uphill though. But there's Morocco.
Absolutely.
Can you go through Morocco? If you think you cannot do it directly. But I think it's a leadership thing. It has to be done by the leader.
Which is why I come in here, because, you know, Nigeria is a regional powerhouse.
Yes.
You know, and historically they've served as a pillar of stability in terms of diplomatic actions for other, you know, community of West African countries, especially with Niger. And I remember when this happened, when the coup in Niger happened, there was a little bit of laybackness. You know, there wasn't speed enough from the foreign relations intervention. Statements were a little slow in coming. And then you began to see other African countries trying to take stance with each country that they believe or they would want to support. By then, there was already a division. Now, people are worried, especially people from other African countries, the Francophone, for instance, at saying that they doubt Nigeria's ability to lead ECOWAS, you know, out of this instability, especially now. We've seen what's happening in Senegal, and it's not too far from Nigeria. So going forward, how do we go back to the question of leadership? How do you think the president can rework his steps? Because whether you like it or not, you said they made a fantastic blunder, but it was also a tragic error on the socio-psychological intention that foreign relations would have, you know, perhaps solved. So how do they take a step back to that conversation?
Thanks. And this is where I like to talk about the ultimate solution. The ECOWAS of states, or ECOWAS of heads of state, is not working. It is time to move to the ECOWAS of the people. What do I mean? The ECOWAS of heads of state are the ones taking decision on behalf of all of us. And if you see what happened in Senegal, this head of state, who we all love. I love Macky Sall. Sincerely, I love him. But right now, that love has literally turned the opposite side.
Someone who said he would never run again.
It was the one who reduced the term of Senegal from 7 years to 5 years. And he said 7 years was too much. In 2012, when the former president Wade wanted to run for a third term, where the country almost turned into the kind of situation they are now in 2012. That agitation was on. When he came into power, it brought some development. Senegal is so, let me use the word, compared to other Francophonic countries, Senegal is ahead. far ahead. If you go into Senegal, go to Dakar particularly, or if you travel, have had the privilege of traveling between the Gambia and Senegal, you will see a very clean road from Banjul straight to Dakar. There's no clean road from Niger to Nigeria. There's no clean road from Togo to Nigeria. That's just on one side. But this same individual, realizing that the 5-year term, which he signed up for, which he proposed, suddenly became too short. And his friends, who are the other heads of states, Nigeria, Togo, Ghana, and all of them are just watching. They cannot call their friend to say, see, you are our friend. Can we settle this amicably? We think that you should. Even though ECOWAS has already made a very strong statement, the time now is for the development of the ECOWAS of people, so that the people will be the leaders. When I say the people, at the end of the day, you're going to ask me the next question, how do we achieve it? We need the people, and there's this group, you may know, the Wadamos. It's a solidarity network that's building the architecture in a way to synchronize all the West African civil society organizations so that we're able to speak in the same voice, so that an injury to one country
will be an injury to all.
Will be an injury to all.
Okay.
And that way we gradually create a level of sensitivity. The way we are now, the peoples of West Africa don't see ECOWAS as affecting them. They see ECOWAS as a meeting of heads of state, whereas ECOWAS go beyond heads of state. ECOWAS truly must gradually move. The Directorate of Security, Political Affairs and Security need to begin to think of that route, to begin to organize people. Let's talk gradually.